Okay, so now we have the whole assembly out as one big unit. So you can see the slave cylinder, and the line comes all the way up here. You have the master cylinder here. We still have this clutch safety switch on here, which we're going to pull off. Which, the way this clip pulls off is if you look right here, these two little pieces, if you just push them in and push the whole thing out, then this will come right off. So then we'll get that pulled off, and then I'm just going to tip this over and drain all the fluid out. And so I'm going to pump the arm on the slave cylinder here to make sure I get all the fluid out before we start pulling lines off. Okay, so I drained the fluid into this coffee can here, and you can see how dark it is and how much crap is floating around in there that clearly something had gone bad and broken down inside the system. So that's a pretty clear indication that we were correct by replacing the clutch hydraulics. So now that the system's drained, we can start pulling it apart. So we're going to start probably right here with the reservoir and the master cylinder and pull that line off. And so we can actually just cut this line so we don't have to worry about trying to save it, because the new master cylinder has one on it. We do have to save the factory reservoir and this factory pressure line right here, and then we can replace the old slave cylinder here. So, and you can see right there, that's that roll pin you have to use a punch to get out. And if we look on this one right here, the roll pin's right there. We'll just use a punch, we'll take those out, and the line will come right out with the fitting on it. Okay, so we pulled the pin out of the master cylinder, and now we're going to take this pin out of the slave cylinder here. And so I'm just going to show you. You just take your punch right there on the pin, and that pushes through pretty easily. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm just using the vice grip because it's easier to show on camera. So, and you can use the pliers, but I'm just going to use the channel locks, and we'll just pull that pin the rest of the way out. There, you can see it. So, and now this line will pull right out with the fitting attached. So, and both ends are like that. It's the same fitting, but the line only goes in one way, so you can kind of tell the one with the hairpin on it is the one for the master cylinder because it has to go up and around, and then the one with the bigger U-bend in it is the one for the slave cylinder because that one drops all the way down for the transmission. Alright, now with those out, then we can start attaching the new parts. Okay, so this is the new slave cylinder here, and as you can see here, I've extended the push rod here on the slave cylinder all the way out, and you can do this by pushing it in just a little bit and pulling these clippies out and then pulling the arm down. Now you want to make sure to do this without cutting it, as I said before, because you'll want to have this up and clipped in where it came out of the box, and then they'll break the first time you use the clutch in the truck. So make sure not to cut those or break those, and just pull them apart and extend the arm down. And what we're going to do is we're going to prime the slave cylinder here with the brake fluid. That way it'll make it a little bit easier to bleed the system out later. Okay, so I now have the slave cylinder completely primed and full of brake fluid. And so the way I did this was I just cut a little tiny hole in the top of my brake fluid bottle and basically pushed this arm all the way up to the top and slowly poured brake fluid in as I inched the arm farther and farther down to suck it down. And I basically pumped it back up and down and repeated this process a couple times until I'd worked all the air out of the slave cylinder, and now there's only fluid in there. And now we can attach the line and start priming the rest of the system with fluid. Okay, so now we're going to attach the pressure line to the slave cylinder here. And we're going to put our little O-ring that came with the new slave cylinder onto the line here, and it just kind of presses on. So you can see it just kind of presses on like that. And then the line just pushes down into the slave cylinder. We'll take our new roll pin here and put it through the slot. If you just kind of get it started there, and then take your channel locks. Well, need to be just a little bit bigger apparently. And then grab it, and we can just push it in until it's flush on both sides. And go just a little bit farther. Okay. Now you can see there it's flush on both sides with the new roll pin in, and that line is installed. Okay, so here we're going to install the pressure line on the master cylinder. And so again, we're just going to put our little O-ring onto the line right here, just pushes over, and then press back in, goes right in. We're going to take our new roll pin and do the same thing. We're just going to push it right on through, get it kind of started here. And we're going to take our channel locks, just like before, just kind of push it in. And make sure it's pretty much flush on both sides. Just like that. Okay. Now if we spin around here, you can take a look at the front of the master cylinder here. And our new clutch rod here. So the part that goes on first, right, is this little foam washer, followed by the plastic shoulder washer. Just fits together like that. And now this is just going to push in, and it's going to lock inside of the master cylinder. Oh, if I can get it. Yep. So you hear it click, and then it's locked in there. And make sure you get those washers on there first, because otherwise you won't be able to get the clutch rod back out. So and then going back to our clutch safety switch, take a look at my diagram, make sure I got this right. So yep. On the clutch safety switch here, make sure these wires go towards the firewall. Otherwise you'll have issues trying to reinstall it later. And so the way this works is just like you took it off, it just kind of snaps on here on the side. That took a little bit of effort here. So that actually just snaps on from the side, and so I'll take it off again so I can show you guys what I had to do to get it on. So if you take a look inside there, the way the switch works is there's this little plastic piece that slides inside of there, and that's what activates the circuit, so it knows if you have the clutch pedal pushed in or not. And there's a little lip right here on the clutch rod, and so the front of that just fits in that foam washer if you put it up on there, And what I did was I just took my little punch here and I just pushed that little plastic piece forward a little bit, and then the whole thing should pop right back on. There you go. And then put the little safety piece back on just like it came off. Just push it in, and that should lock right in. Oops, assuming you have it on all the way. There we go. So now, just like I did before,